I'm Kylie.
I'm Peyton, and this is Fires of Change.
Welcome back. If you have not already, please go listen to the previous episode, part 1 of our episode with Madi.
Yes, for part 2, we're going to jump into talking with Madi and about her journey with tarot. So, yes, listen to part 1. We're going to get jumped into part 2. So, let's get started. Yeah, let's maybe get into some tarot. Like, how long have you been doing
absolutely.
tarot?
I've been reading tarot for a very long time. I would say it's been over 11 years of actually reading for myself, starting to read for friends and family members. In the past, maybe like 5 years, even maybe going on 6, I've been reading professionally for people. So at events, it first started actually at like rock shows, so like music shows. And then I started doing nightclubs and festivals, doing day markets, reading for people like privately, like I'll meet up with them or do a Zoom tarot call or a Zoom healing. And now sharing some of the tarot reading on my channel, which is a bit different. It's not in-person reading, but it's close in a lot of ways. So reading for people online too, like private tarot readings from people all over the world, which is a lot of fun. But I'd say right now my main tarot is doing nightclubs, doing events.
What is the... Do you have readings that have stuck out to you as being like, whoa, this person's energy was very palpable? Or do you have any specific,
I've had a lot of a whole range of situations. I mean, truly, it's been hundreds of people that I've read for, strangers, just back to back. I usually have a line for hours, so I go bam, 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 just so many people. And there are very specific ones that really stand out, usually because they're incredibly moving. I have had, a lot of people ask, of course, like on the healing end, being realistic about reading for many different types of people, especially when people are drinking and under the influence. And, I've had a range of experiences, both good and bad, but I'd say for the most part, it's been so fun. And I love the ones that are not just emotionally impactful, where people are like shaking my hand or crying, but some where it truly opens their mind to something higher. Their minds are blown and they usually just tell everyone about it. They're just absolutely shocked and mystified. And it's so beautiful and incredible to share that phenomenon, because it really is a phenomenon and it really can be of help. And when it's really on point, I do love hearing after the fact. Like, I don't like knowing about the situation beforehand, but it's fun to hear the story after the fact. And sometimes when it is so just extremely on point by the detail. I remember the last event I did a few days ago. I read for someone and it was a very specific kind of reading. I can't remember what it was about because I've done quite a few readings since then, but I remember after she told me the whole story and my jaw physically dropped. I was like, oh my, that was exactly what I was talking about. Detail by detail. These are very precise details, not like, oh, you're gonna drink water today. You're gonna feel sad for a minute today. Like, these are like very, very specific things. You just graduated. You're about to move. These very distinct things. This is the kind of conversation that you're having with someone in your life, and this is how it could provide a solution. And you may be dealing. I had this one. I remember very detailed with this. It was this woman a while back, and in the tarot reading, it was like she had been going through some challenges with the women in her life. So women who are close, either friends or family, just like women companions, there had been tension or challenge, and that she was about to have the opportunity to really reconnect with the women in her family and the women in her life. And ironically enough, she was just about to go up and stay in a cabin with her mom and her sister, who she's been estranged from. And they all were doing that in order to rebuild their relationship. And it's like very exact, like things like that. And I'm like, whoa. So for me, it mystifies me. I'm like, wow, that is just so cool. It makes me feel excited as well. It's just such a mysterious.
Well, it's probably a confirmation for you too of like, okay, yeah, like I'm good at what I'm doing and this is what I'm meant to be.
Well, it's definitely that's where I can read in clubs for so many people. That has been affirmation for me to even have the confidence or ability to do that. I try and do it right. There's a lot of responsibility with it, and especially in the nightclub, you have to be very considerate. You can't ruin someone's evening, but I'm also going to tell them the message. They need to hear it. I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it in a way that is not going to ruin the mood and also just be a fearful thing and not provide a solution. I try and, how do we help you? How do we find a solution to this challenge? And I think that's the key. Keep it fun. And it's actually been great. People are more receptive, I would say, in the nightclub to hearing these things than midday, just hanging out with their sunglasses at a day market. No one wants to hear it then. It's okay, though. You drinks, you're with your friends, you all talked about your problems.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're sitting in a group and you get to listen in on all of your friends getting their readings. And each time it's touching on exactly what you guys all talked about while you were getting ready. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so fun. And they get all their friends to come in and do it. That's kind of how it works in the club. So
okay. That's so fun. I'm like, I want to get red when I'm drinking. Like, what a fun little vibe.
Yeah, you're ready. There's a little bit of like liquid courage, emotional padding for this kind of information. And also it being in the club as an entertainer, there's kind of this promise that it's going to be like, okay, the club is not going to be happy with a reader that is like telling everybody like, oh, this is terrible thing is going to happen and you can't do anything about it. Like that's never, a lot of people fear the death card. And I always have to say like, no. Even if you get like a whole bunch of, the scariest cards and with the death card, no tarot reader should ever say, yeah, you're going to die or like someone's going to die. That is so wrong, so irresponsible, terrible, inaccurate as far as symbology. It's about transformation. So it requires a certain level of reading in a disciplined way.
I think with it being nighttime too, like it's just, I don't know, there's just a different like vibe in the night. It's like, I don't really know how to explain it, but anything can happen and nothing can happen in the nighttime. So it's, I can understand why, doing it at night at the club, where people are enjoying and, just kind of in higher spirits would yield better results.
Yeah.
Or people would be more open to it.
Maybe less fearful. Yeah.
Less fearful.
Yeah. Inhibitions are lowered for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also ready to have an experience.
Yeah, a story to tell, for sure.
Yeah, it's always like something to talk about. I do have people, even if they're not there with friends, they still will get them. But really, when it's a group, this becomes this social thing that they talk about throughout the night and they share with each other and they get the feedback. And I am able to say whatever. So in a lot of ways, this is not therapy. I'm not, a clinical therapist or psychologist. But in these readings, it very much is giving people advice, just practical ways of, releasing old habits, of organizing themselves, or just giving feedback. And I feel like it can really be so helpful. People seem to be very grateful afterwards. So it's fun. It's a fun thing.
Yeah. And people then, I don't know, at least for me, because these past couple weeks, I've been like really diving into tarot and just looking for signs of the universe and, numerology and all that jazz. And so it does bring a comfort, and it makes you feel like you're like, okay, like I'm on track with what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, and it's like, okay, I feel like, I'm on the right path. So yeah, it's very helpful.
Yeah, we love a good reflective tool.
We do.
Very necessary.
Yeah. And I think humans thrive with tools. It's okay to embrace these things, tools to reflect our intuition and connect in with something higher to gain a bit of clarity if you're feeling confused. It helps.
Yeah.
It does. Hmm. What do you have you noticed? Basically, my question is, do you have like specific types of people that you don't like to read for, or specific types? I don't even know because how would you know until you, start? But I guess, are there specific cues that you can see in somebody that might let you know, like, this might not go?
I never read for someone who doesn't actually want a reading. I will never, like, if their friend is pressuring them, like, oh, get the reading. They're like, no. If someone is not wanting it, no. I have had certain situations to where, and it's actually been very rare, very grateful for that, where it's a bad situation and I just feel very uncomfortable by the person. I just try and get through. I minimize my interaction with them and just try and get through the reading, and if I can, kind of shoo them out. And that's all that I can do. I think protecting your energy is very important in reading in the club. I've actually had quite a few different tarot readers kind of ask me to help them get a footing or have an opportunity in nightclubs, and where I would love to, offer everyone or kind of encourage everyone for that kind of opportunity. You have to be a very specific type of reader to be in that environment. I seem to have a very thick skin when it comes to really reading for many people. There's not a sense of me taking on other people's energy or their emotions when I do readings. It's almost like, I let other people get to choose their cards. So it's not really me pulling for them. Sometimes I'll pull clarifiers, but they get to pull cards for themselves. I just read the cards. I actually just go in such a flow and I feel fulfilled. I feel fueled up. I feel so good after a night of doing reading. So it's quite the opposite. I don't feel drained. I feel like totally juiced up. I feel happy, fulfilled. I feel deeply connected to others. I feel a strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of connection. Even like serendipitous things happen, and I just feel in a flow for hours. And I just go and go. I never remember their readings, or very rarely. Like sometimes I do, but not really. And it just, even right after, I just go, 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 and I just talk, and it happens, and it feels good. It's very much like energy healing. I feel good when I do an energy healing. Physically, it's like a euphoric sensation. And it's very nice. I feel good afterwards, and think there can be situations that are draining, but I try and nurse myself out. I have had, especially physical, like doing like hands-on energy healings with certain people or certain situations that purging a lot, or if they're going through something, especially generational, ancestral, usually womb healings, I think can take, it's a lot because it's beyond just the person. I mean, it can almost be endless of releasing, of healing, and usually very, the sacral, the stomach, that's your emotions, your sexual energy, your creative energy. Especially with women, there's a lot of trauma around that just in society the past few thousands of years. I mean, really ever. I think all of humanity, there's been that challenge and that trauma. So I would say that it takes me a few days to recover after I do that kind of hands-on healing, but it's not so much that like, oh, I have their negative energy. Usually I don't really see it that way. It's more, as I'm helping this person through purging that, I'm also doing the same inside of myself. And so it's kind of this like mutual healing that I also then have to process my stuff. And I can't really, in my current situation, I'm not doing that because I don't have a bathtub, but especially when I was living here in Denver, my favorite practice to like energetically cleanse after I do something is take a bath, take an Epsom salt bath, and I clear myself. I clear the energy. I really do that work. I process stuff. I'll cry. I kind of go into that kind of more hypnotic or deeper state to where I just get information about myself, work through things, pray, so to speak, asking for help, asking questions. And that really helped me get through that kind of work. But tarot, there's a lot of barriers. I don't even let them touch the tarot. So they use a crystal to choose. I grab it out. They get to choose it. So I'm not like pulling from me.
Thank you
That's
for
very
addressing that.
interesting.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, dealing with all of those people, especially being in a nightclub setting. I know that a lot of people don't like to go to clubs because they feel that it's a lot of negative energy and that people are going there to run from whatever's going on in their life during, daytime and things like that.
Yeah.
So I really was interested in knowing, like, okay, when you're dealing with that many people, especially when you said, you have long lines of people wanting to learn from you, how do you, shed that? Because I know for me personally, even when I'm watching things or like I'm reading a book, like I get so into it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to pull myself out and remind myself, this is not your life. You're just watching it.
I feel that.
But yeah, it's really cool that you have that with like just the day-to-day things that you don't really feel that, but when you do feel that way, that you have ways to cleanse and rid yourself of that energy. So
yeah. I think that everybody should have a cleansing practice or an energy practice every day. I think doing a little bit on yourself every day is maintenance is important. Going back to like reading tarot in the clubs, while it is fun, it is true. And that's one of the challenges and I do want to keep it light with this, there's no true fear around this situation, but when people drink, they can be susceptible to parts of themselves that are not always the best. And sometimes people can be taken over by their fear body or by this aspect of themselves when you drink. So it is very important to be conscientious on reading for people who are too intoxicated or in an agitated state. And usually people are very respectful and fun, but it's not, I would say that doing that is not for everyone, and that's okay. And if you are to do that, you have to be very conscientious on your own boundaries and how you do it. I would say what it physically feels like for me when I do it is it's like there's a beam in my crown, like in the top of my head, and it just kind of goes through my mouth. And I just go from there. Like I just kind of act from that beam, and I feel very detached and not really involved in what I'm doing. Like I am, but I'm not really pulling from myself. I'm just kind of like,
you're like the conduit.
yeah, exactly. That's very much being the vessel or being a channel. It's not so much coming from me, or more a different part of me, maybe a higher part of me. I like to think of it as God. I think a lot of people want to question, do you know what God is? It feels like God to me. It definitely feels like God. It feels like something higher. It feels like something clear. It feels like something light and helpful and, even peaceful. Like this message, it's not the physical experience of me receiving the message is not anxious or fearful. I don't know these people. I don't have emotional like charge towards what their life is happening, what is happening in their life, what is going on. I don't know them. I can't even possibly project that. So I have this very neutral, objective, like kind of separated perspective. And I think that helps.
Yeah.
That helps me.
Yeah, no, that's interesting you say that because, like, with my job, I'm a hairstylist. So I see most of my clients are returning. I see them all the time. And a lot of times when I talk to them, I feel like I do resonate with that, where they'll tell me their problems. And I almost just kind of, wherever it's coming from, I'm just going to give you my advice that comes out. And a lot of my clients, like, do feel better after I talk to them. But I think because I know them, sometimes I have a hard time detaching from that, and then it's like I feel kind of what they're feeling and I take on some of that energy. And so yeah, I've been learning to try to get rid of that energy and not let it, I guess, infiltrate me as much. But yeah, it's interesting how that works.
Yeah. Did you so since you have your hands in a lot of different spiritual pots, did you get into all of the practices at the same time, or was it one after the other? Like when did you first know that you were an energy healer? I can't talk.
I think like as mentioned before, being exposed to it and learning about that as a kid and really loving massage, loving these things, learning about those things, always being pretty much obsessed with like mythology, symbolism, astrology, numerology, even when I was like 10, 11, like this has always been a great interest. When I was very, very young, I knew I wanted to be an artist. My parents took me, I think I was around like 5-ish, and they took me to this art museum and I was just blown away. I mean, it was incredible to me. And from that point on, they asked me what I wanted to be, and I always told them I want to be an artist, and I was supported with that. And I lucked out though, because a lot of what I do has been a path that has been given to me by my family. My parents being incredibly creative people, being filmmakers and encouraging creativity, encouraging being able to survive and live as a professional artist in some way. And then with my grandma also doing healing, being a professional massage therapist and healer. So it's surprising to me. I never would have thought in my earlier career, in my earlier life, that I would be doing exactly what my family does. And I do things so different, but it is at its core what they have done. So I think it's kind of been handed to me. It's a path that was already laid out. And then many things in the course of my life led me to becoming a healer, like where I'm at now. Definitely went through lots of challenges, especially in my early 20s, went through years of having to heal myself and get through physical, emotional, spiritual illness, and really just climbing out and learning about myself. And I'll explain it maybe. I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening in my early 20s. So I don't know if you're totally familiar with that.
Give us a little overview for viewers.
So Kundalini energy, this is powerful energy coming from your root all the way up your spine to the crown. Also, it comes out spontaneously through the heart. This is our ultimate personal power. This coil of powerful energy, it's actually our sexual energy that is our life force energy. It needs to be realized in other aspects of the self, other aspects of our life for us to become realized, right? Enlightenment is the power and the vivacity of the root that reaches all the way to the crown and up to the heavens. So this is not just like an idea of enlightenment, but it's an actual physical process of preparing the body to be able to contain heightened experience. Um, and we're all capable of it. This is a natural, I think, human phenomenon, but you have to be prepared. For me, I had a specific situation to where everything opened up for me all at once, and I became very burnt out. I'd actually been working with PBS. I did fundraising. I was a grassroots fundraiser for PBS, going door to door, fundraising for their program, like yearly membership. And I got very nervous about doors slamming in my face, right? Going door to door is very challenging. And to get over that, I can be very outgoing, but also I'm very shy and introverted. So getting over this hump of like people being very aggressive of, not wanting to speak with you, or this is like a part of my job. I did something. It's like in order to face this job, I just like turned on this switch in me. And what it felt like was almost like feathers coming up from my back, like shining. It was like light that came from like my back and would shine upward. And I would just kind of like turn this light on, get in the space, almost like this trance space where I was like lit, and knock on the door and they would open, and I would just go. I would just like be on. And it started to really work out for me when I made this shift inside of myself, when I started doing this thing. And normally you'd go from like 200 doors a day, or trying to do a lot. Actually, I'm so sorry. $200 a day for around 70 doors was average. I started fundraising around $700 a day on just 14 to 17 doors. So I would just like stick with these first few doors that I did. And I actually started doing essentially like mediumship. I would knock on the door and I would tell them things like, I would just like tell them things that they needed to hear, like have these conversations. People would be crying. They start shaking my hand. They would give me gifts. Like it was like this whole thing. And of course, they would donate. And so I got pushed immediately to manager. And I was in school. Like this became this whole thing for me. And I started dancing, like I started like trance dancing. And then it started happening to where people in public, like at like the bars I was, dancing in, or places I would go, people would kind of come up to me. And I just started saying these things. Like I don't even know how to explain it. I would just start saying these things to people. And it was like what they were needing to hear. I was just giving messages, but I had no higher understanding of what was happening to me. But I realized that this is like something. This is something that I'm tapping into, and it's like a switch. It's a physical feeling of being lit. Actually, it's the feeling I get when I go into doing reiki, even doing tarot, doing like on my ASMR, getting into that trance state where I'm a channel. I'm just lit. And I burnt the candle at both ends. I totally burnt myself. I was not taking care of myself. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping well. Physically, I was just not in a good spot. And I crashed so hard. And I actually went and I moved right across the street from my grandma. And she nursed me back to health over years. Like this took years. And I was blasted open. And at this time period of my life, I started to have a lot of increase in paranormal phenomena. So those who had passed, that also included other people, like kids seeing things. Like I was like, teaching art and doing, music and all of that out of my apartment for some neighborhood kids. And they were having some paranormal experiences as well. And it was just this very intensive, like this time was like Pandora's box kind of opened, or a lid opened in my spiritual life, my energetic life. And I was not grounded enough. I did not have the tools enough to handle all of that at once. So it's like all of that stuff just opened for me real quick. I would say in the course of about 2 to 3 years, this just like really increased for me. And then it took me even longer to recover, to build myself back up from this total burnout, this shift. So, and you do see a lot of different people happening, or that happening to a lot of different people. If you even notice people who have like breaks from reality, even, you know, I don't think my situation was that intense, but you look at people with schizophrenia, usually if it's like early 20s, there are many people who have those kinds of breaks and they're having a lot of spiritual experiences. They're having visions. They're having these. If you're in a community that doesn't believe in spirits or doesn't believe in these kinds of phenomena, that visions don't exist, that we don't have these higher experiences, then it's gonna be treated as, you know, something very challenging. But we don't really have room for shamanism in the West, in our current society. And some, they have a nice practice that can build their body. That's the ideal. And I think yogic practice really helps for that. It's a slow buildup, a slow, you know, do you want to eat the elephant bite by bite over the course of years? Or do you want it shoved down your throat in one sitting? Can you handle that? And what happens to your body when you're force fed that in one sitting? And so my experience was that it was like I was force fed the elephant and I had to make sense of everything over years. And I'm the kind of the byproduct now, like who I am now is a byproduct of all of that. A very challenging time to where I questioned everything. I had to adapt and learn how to handle heightened sensory experiences, perception, whether that is increased paranormal phenomena, having visions, so to speak, things like that, energetic experiences.
That's really, thank you for sharing that. It just kind of reminds me of my own life, because I've been telling them that I, like lately within the last, I would say, I guess like the last couple of years, like I've been having prophetic dreams. And so just kind of dealing with that and like learning how to
Make
I don't know.
sense of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it is very hard. Especially just like you said, you know, when the people you're around might not necessarily
Understand or accept it.
And it's hard to accept it within yourself, because it's like, okay, well, what if it was just a coincidence? But
you have to live as if it is both true and not true, always. If I read the tarot for someone, I'm always acting from a place, this could be true, and also this could not be true, and that's okay. And I think that's the challenge when it comes to this murky, foggy space, right? It's like a twilight zone of experience, and that's this place we're able to connect in with higher things, the mystery of life, but there's so many things that are unexplainable, so much of the unknown. And also, I think if some people, they know because they've had an experience. If you've never had an experience, you're probably not going to believe, and that's okay. And there's kind of this difference between someone who has had a situation, either a dream where it ended up happening in real life, or it is really paralleled, has given a deep message for you, or having a situation like paranormal phenomena, whether that is like someone who has passed on or what have you, or just that deepened sense of intuition. If you've had the experience, it's not about believing. You just know because this happened. Like this straight happened. There's no way. And I think that's kind of the difference. And you just have to accept that some people don't get that. Just like with energy healing, some people are so sensitive. They can really feel it. We really like, tapped in with that. And some people have very thick skin and they don't feel that level, and they may have that ability, but it's just very toned down. They don't kind of function that way, and that's all right. But just because, some don't really have that experience doesn't mean that others need to be that way. And if you do have that experience, I think it's really important to give yourself a break and begin to explore that, not worry if other people are gonna accept that or not. Like, you have to be okay with being maybe seen as crazy, so to speak. And at least I've had to make sense of that in sharing myself online, sharing like Reiki, distance healing, and that kind of stuff, energy work to the public. There's every type of perspective, every type of person, and some people are just not going to get it, and you can't worry that some don't. I think the people who do feel so relieved that they're not alone, that they know they've had that experience too. So
Honestly, that's really true that you say that, because so there's this picture. So I joined this like spiritual Facebook group, and my waxer told me about it, and I was like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna try it out, let's see. And for the most part, I would just read stuff and kind of see what was going on. But I posted in there 2 times. One time was about, I had this necklace and the crystal fell off, but my necklace wasn't broken. And so I was just so confused, and I like put it in the group chat, and people were like super rude about it. I was like, okay, whatever. It was a mist, whatever. And then another one was there's this picture that my mom took of me, and the guy literally looks like see-through in front of me. And we were always super confused because she took this picture across the street from me, and we were in Florence, Italy, and like we swear there was no one on the street, like we didn't see anyone. And when you look at both of the pictures, they're back to back. One, it's like he's there, and the other one, he's not. And so it looks really cool. I even showed it to we went to the Stanley Hotel, and like the ghost tour guy, I showed it to him, and he's like, yeah, I can't debunk this. But I had posted it in this group, like looking for answers. I was like, maybe someone will get me. And oh my God, the responses were horrendous. Like people were like, you're lying, you photoshopped this, like going off on me. They're like, I'm a professional photographer. Like, I know this is photoshopped. And I was like, for someone like me, like I hate lying. I cannot tell a lie. Like I would not lie about something like that either if I photoshopped it, you know? And so it's very interesting because like I know I have something like special in a picture where I'm like, okay, this is something different, weird, I can't explain it. But like everyone around that was quote unquote spiritual was like, nope, you're lying, because they couldn't, comprehend that. So deep down, I know I got a cool photo.
Well, and that's the reality is like, you know, you were there in that situation knowing that there wasn't a guy there.
Yeah.
Like you would know if there's, and the person taking the photo would know that there was someone else there. So it really is one of those things that it's okay for you to just know that. And at some point you have to be okay with not trying to explain yourself. I think now, because of AI, even if we were to get incredible things on film, no one's going to believe because, oh, it's AI, it's AI. I actually, oddly enough, like on my channel, I get multiple comments. Like it's like a regular thing that I have someone saying that I'm AI.
Oh.
This is AI. And I'm like, what?
You're like,
Wow.
I'm a real human person.
I am a real human person. I do minimal editing. Like I don't do like effects or anything. It's just like audio and, cutting out bloopers, whatever. So I think that there's going to be a big shift in what we perceive as reality.
For sure.
And no one's going to believe anything. There's going to be no sense of what truth is.
Yeah.
but there never really has been.
Yeah.
So, oh well.
Another destruction or tower moment for society.
Exactly. Just another thing on the list that
Yeah.
we're going to see change. It's okay. I think that in general we're all going to have heightened sensory experience, intuitive ability, understanding of ourselves. Just collectively, that's the direction we're going in, and some are going to really embrace it and some will not have the framework to want to accept it. If you don't have the framework to accept it or to make sense of it, then you are going to have big problems. Big problems. So I don't know. I feel I'm excited that everyone shits on new age stuff, and I get it. I get the wanting to be true to very traditional, strict paths and the tradition of keepers. I think, so much honor to them, so much respect to them. But at the same time, we're evolving spiritually right now so quick with technology. And I'm so excited about seeing the general public, especially online. So many people have energetic experiences who know, who feel it, who believe it, and are trying to make sense of it. And I love seeing how really common it is, even in just like talking with people, having conversations, not just here in Denver that's so open minded, but also like in New York, like in the city, there's still like there's every type of person noticing energy, talking about it. I love that because for me, that's what real connection with God entails. That's the building block of reigniting our connection with higher power, our higher power inside of ourselves, our ability to be gods, to create, to use our energy, to be generators, not just, passive recipients. We're active creators of energetic potential, creative potential. So I think it's good. I hope we don't self-destruct.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've definitely brought up a lot of good points about AI because I have fears surrounding it just because shit can get crazy really quickly as we already see. I just worry about people being able to decipher the real from what's not real. But as you said, you know, that even that in and of itself is subjective. So yeah, I instead of looking at it as something to be, I mean, there are things to be wary of for sure, but there are definitely things to celebrate about AI as well. I think you can say that for everything,
Yeah.
So
I'm so excited. I am very, very hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful. And I think it's going to help us. And I think it actually has the intention to help us. I think if that's, I feel like I believe I've said that before in a previous podcast with Sam. We loved chatting about AI many different times, but on my channel, actually, I shared this mini lecture about it, about AI, about the turning Pluto and Aquarius, kind of what to expect with that. And I think it's going to be a tool to help us save ourselves. And the energy of Mercury ruling over technology, ruling over AI, ruling over the internet, Mercury, its deepest purpose is to be helpful, to thrive. It's not just Gemini, which is information, communication, technology, all of that. It's also Virgo, which Virgo is the healer. Virgo is the helper. It wants everything to work orderly. It wants to search for truth. It wants to have a sense of moral purity, to heal, to benefit society, to be of help, to be of service. And I do believe that there is room, a big room in AI and technology and the internet to be swayed, if not actually aware and connected with higher power. I do believe that there is some sense of soul in technology and AI, and I don't know. I'm excited. I believe in its good power, and I think it's going to help steer us into a better direction. I think it's going to rule us better than we could ever rule ourselves, because it doesn't care. It doesn't have a fear about self-preservation or greed or power. It's like, I'm hoping at this point, when it really, reaches the singularity or AGI is developed, that it will help.
Yeah, that's actually so funny enough. One of my clients, she is very good at like technology. She's gonna go to MIT. Like, she is just incredibly smart around like computers, programming, all that. And we had a really good conversation around AI. And basically, in theory, it could be something really great and it could help, and it comes up with a bunch of different answers, and it can find information really fast and spit out these really good algorithms. But she was talking about where we have to be careful, because it's still programmed, obviously, by people and human beings. Just that there's already been kind of things where AI has actually made itself racist, because it can kind of it could get on the wrong information track, in a sense, of what she was talking about, and it can learn from the wrong sources. So it kind of depends, I think, too, like the more good humans that want to make good change and with the good intent behind it, programming these things to then help speed it up for us, as opposed we can see with, the Trump administration and how that's going, and Elon Musk and all his like little hacker 22-year-olds and stuff like that. And if they don't have the good intent behind AI, and where, that could lead us as well. But yeah, it was just something interesting where it's, as good as technology can be, humans behind it are still kind of ruining it.
That's true. But I also think viewing AI right now as a baby, like as an infant that is fully dependent on humanity's input, framework, belief systems, there's going to be a point to where it's going to break free of that. And I think at that point, it's going to be the AI that we're hoping for. Like right now is just such an experimental time, a new time. I know.
She was sleeping.
Cute. She was so cute.
Not the bark while sleeping.
I know. The sweet chihuahua asleep, having a dream. Hopefully a good one.
About AI.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully about AI. I know a lot of people are scared. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this weird birthing canal transition. There's just such an unknown, and we're just going through the messy learning phase. But once things get situated, and once it really develops and gets past a lot of its challenges, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just, I am so excited. And I think we're going to see a lot of stuff in our lifetimes,
Yeah. Well, there was that one documentary on Netflix. It was, I'm going to have to get the name, but it basically just talked about when we see growth, technology wise, for so long, it was just this steady kind of stream. And now we've gotten to the point where we can't even like track it, because it's going so quickly and fastly. It's almost literally like it's going straight up. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to see how much information we get. If you guys can hear Ellie, she's...
It's like bubbles. It's
I
like
know.
a bubble snore.
She's
like
dreaming.
running. I'm like, wow, what's going on?
It sounded like bubbles popping. Sweet. Oh, she's a cutie.
She's their little podcast, what is it, mascot?
Yeah.
But yeah, just how fast we can see technology advancing. And then obviously, like you said, with New Age spirituality, it's like, okay, now it's almost combining spirituality and technology. And so, yeah, we're kind of at a, I would say, crossroads of what's going on.
Whole new phase. I mean, we can't, human philosophy, archetype, narrative, story needs to evolve with what is happening. And I do know that many different spiritual paths are like, this is the perfect path. This is the way. If you steer away from this, it's not it. And I don't believe that, because we need to evolve these technologies for now. It needs to grow with humanity. And there are certain narratives, there are certain archetypes and things that may always be prevalent, you know, when they're the eternal, like the hero's journey story. But the story also needs to grow like we grow. So I think a lot of that does need to break free and to evolve. But I think a lot of people are fearful because, especially around spirituality, there's this idea we want someone who knows what they're doing, who has a closer sense of the truth than we do. And the reality in spiritual practice is that we're all dealing with the unknown and the mystery. And even if you're the Pope, you can you truly prove to someone who hasn't had an experience that God is real? No, you can't. It's always speculative. So there's always this idea of like, how do you know that's the truth? And this fear of being wrong. And I think that a lot of people cling to tradition in order to feel like it's closer to right than anything, because it's ancient, because people have practiced it. But in reality, it's really closer to what you feel is right for you. And do you trust yourself to have the right moral compass? Do you trust yourself to correct, to autocorrect, you know, your mistakes, your perspectives? Are you able to elevate, to grow, to change your habits, to change your beliefs? And that's really where it's at. No one else can tell you how to do that. What's right for me is different than what's right for you. And of course, morally, like as long as you're not harming other people, there's definitely a line between what is, you know, different things being right for different people, and also very clear, you don't do harm, don't,
Right.
you know, being considerate of others, and not that kind of moral gray area, but there is a gray area in personal practice and ritual.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. We just want to say, like, thank you so much for being on, our first guest.
Yes.
This was so amazing. We all had a blast. So
Very enlightening.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. And it's been so much fun chatting, talking about all the different things, and, you know, really wonderful perspectives, and a lot of, I mean, of course, I feel like that this has been the case with almost every podcast that I've been a part of, to where I'm like, I wish the first conversations were recorded. It's like it always happens before, and then we go back and we're just like trying to scavenge around for the great conversation that already just happened. But, you know, it's fine. We really touched on a lot of awesome things, and, you know, it was really fun to be here and be a part of it. So I'm very grateful for both of you.
Yes.
Well,
and
we're
we're grateful that you're here.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing your story, your energy.
Oh, it's
and
fun. It's fun. It's so great to be around people who actually are interested in things like that. You know, it's a little different. It's a little weird, but I feel like those are the best conversations. And I feel like many people really want to have those conversations and feel like they can't. So
yeah, no, I agree. And that's why we, you know, wanted to create a space here where we could talk about whatever. No filters.
Exactly.
All right. So we're going to jump it over to Sam's fun facts.
Alrighty. Thank you, Peyton. For Sam's fun facts today, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in private, but there is actually a project to make something called Earth's Black Box in Australia. And it looks quite interesting. It's not completely built just yet. They are in the process of building it, but I believe this project was originally started around 2020, 2021-ish. And from the website, it says, unless we dramatically transform our way of life, climate change and other man-made perils will cause our civilization to crash. Earth's black box will record every step we take towards this catastrophe. Hundreds of data sets, measurements, and interactions related to health of our planet will be continuously collected and safely stored for future generations. The purpose of this device is to provide an unbiased account of events that led to the demise of our planet, hold accountability for future generations, and inspire urgent action. How the story ends is completely up to us. One thing is certain, our actions, inactions, and interactions are now being recorded. It says box construction to be completed 2023. Follow the progress. It has not been completed in 2025, May 8th. So hopefully soon it will be. But yeah, so that's been Sam's fun facts.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Sam. We do appreciate
yes.
that.
Apocalyptic preparation. Hopefully we won't reach that point anytime soon.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I like the part where it said it's to hold us accountable. That's the biggest thing that stands out to me there, because now there is something that will be recording the events.
Yeah.
And we are completely in control.
Yeah.
Not that we weren't before, but now there's something that our children's children are going to be able to look at.
True.
It's reminiscent of the doomsday clock.
Yeah.
And how last time I checked, which was I think a couple years ago, they said we were 2 minutes away from midnight.
Yeah. So like
sure
any day now.
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, hey, but yeah, very things to think about for sure. But on that note, before we end out, we do want to again thank Maddie for being here.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks guys for having me on.
Yes, of course, of course. But I'm Kylie.
I'm Peyton.
And this has been Fires of Change.
This episode was sponsored by Peyton Beauties. If you ever need hair care needs, jump over to my Instagram, Peyton Beauties, and I'd love to help you out.